All right, let's put an obit on this season. Welcome to the funeral. Look at this. Our insiders, Paul Calvisi and Dan Bigley, both wore black for the occasion. That's what I'm talking about, guys.
Here we go, Cam. Bring it. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get right into it. Guys, there was reportedly a very tense meeting between Cliff Kingsbury, Michael Bidwell, and Steve Keim. Paul, you're in the building. What did you hear?
I was not in the meeting. The sideline reporter was not included in the meeting, okay? But if there was a meeting and it was tense, wouldn't that make sense, guys? It's the second year in a row you had a slide to end the season. You spend much of this season number one in the power polls, one of two teams top five in scoring offense, scoring defense. I mean, if the owner, who's as competitive as anyone, if he wanted a few answers and it got a little intense, I wouldn't be shocked. In fact, I saw the report. I didn't even blink.
This is the Michael Bidwell I thought that I knew. You have to understand that for many, many years and decades, the Cardinals were a very soft franchise. They had a very lackadaisical approach to competition and winning. And Michael Bidwell is largely responsible for atoning for the competitive sins of his father. And it's a remarkable thing that he's done with this franchise. And for anybody who's ever dealt with him on a business standpoint, anybody who's ever worked for him, they know how aggressive, ambitious, hard-charging, and even combative he can be. And so to hear that this report and this meeting might have taken place and stuff might have hit the fan, I think that's exactly what Cardinal fans want to hear.
Cliff Kingsbury is still the head coach. Dan, I'll start with you. What do you make of that decision so far?
I don't agree with it. I was really afraid of this at the end of last year. It wasn't just the collapse last year. It was just how spectacular the failures were and how unbecoming and how lost this team looked. I feel the same way at the end of this season. I'm struggling to put my finger on exactly what is this team's identity. I'm a firm believer in bringing in an offensive coordinator and let Cliff take that next step. Give him a chance to be a head coach in the strictest sense of the word. Let him design the offense, design the plays. Let somebody else do the play calling. I think that would be the logical step going forward to try to help avoid what we've seen here the last couple of years.
I'd be shocked if there was a coaching change. I'd be shocked if he gave up the play calling. I wouldn't be shocked if they necessarily brought in an OC. I almost semi-expect them to bring in a different quarterbacks coach, perhaps. Maybe a different voice for Kyler Murray, especially if Colt McCoy does not return. If Vance Joseph were to get a head coaching job, maybe you bring in a more hard-charging defensive coordinator who could be more of that bad cop on the sideline to Cliff Kingsbury's good cop. Those are some of the changes I expect. Nothing radical.
All right, guys, let's get to Kyler Murray. How does he pull a Josh Allen? Because after last year, Josh Allen came out and basically flat out said, I'm going to work this offseason and become a better quarterback. He did just that. How does Kyler Murray do that this offseason?
Number one, they have to figure out, okay, when teams take away D-Hop or D-Hop is not on the field, what do you do to still be an effective quarterback? I'd love to see them put Kyler into more what Colt McCoy ran those 3 games, where he's under center more, a lot more play action, a lot more quick passes. Guess what? Colt McCoy won 2 of his 3 games without D-Hop. Kyler Murray won 2 of 7. So that's a problem. And then number 2, you got to make him comfortable in the pocket. Aaron Donald said it after the game. We saw it down the stretch. When Kyler wasn't confident and comfortable in the pocket, he was much less of a quarterback.
There was a story on Kyler in the New York Times on December 23rd that I completely missed. And it basically highlighted Kyler talking about how he's not the type of guy to watch a lot of film. The theme of the story was how it has come so easy to Kyler up until now. I'm really hoping that this loss to the Rams in the playoffs is a really big plate full of humble pie for Kyler Murray that inspires him to be better, that inspires him to be more coachable, that inspires him, as Paul says, to be receptive to getting up under center, even if that means taking the ball from the center, turning your back to the defense, which he does not like to do, play action, which opens up a whole dimension, timeless dimension to any offense. But I think Kyler's got to look this in the face and just realize it's not easy. And there's going to be another level of commitment, emotionally, physically, time-wise, that he's going to have to give this profession to match the others that do it at the highest level.
And guys, Kyler in primetime was not big time. The Cardinals were 0-4 in primetime. He threw 1 touchdown and 6 picks. And you throw out Josh Allen, Cam. I'll throw out Lamar Jackson. His first playoff game was miserable. And then he lost the second year in the playoffs. It's been an evolution. Lamar Jackson had to go back to the drawing board to win some of those big-time games and eventually an MVP.
Yeah, like this team, there's just more questions than answers right now. Guys, let's turn to the offseason. Dan, we'll start with you. What does a win this offseason look like?
Part of what I believe is going to be a reflection of the internal belief in where this thing is going will be how willing would a guy like Zach Ertz or James Conner or Colt McCoy in a backup role to Kyler Murray be to take team-friendly deals, to not look to max out their dollars. Now, you can draw the Suns as a parallel and say there's a lot of guys on that Suns team that did just that for Monty Williams in the offseason. But James Conner, I think, would be really nice to bring back, but I'm really cautioning against investing big money into a running back. A lot of teams have been down that road. I think you need another big-time wide receiver. I don't know if you can afford Christian Kirk for what he might command and keep him as a number 3.
I think you do have to address both lines of scrimmage. I mentioned offensive line, making Kyler feel comfortable. You got to get to the quarterback. Protect that quarterback, get to the quarterback. Chandler Jones, is he coming back? It feels a lot like Patrick Peterson a year ago. So what do? You got to get someone stout, because when this team started to go south in the last third of the season, they started giving up big plays as a defense, and quarterbacks had way too much time to scan the field, go down the field. So if you're not going pass rusher at 23 overall, then I think at the very least you got to go number 1 corner. If you can make Byron Murphy a number 2 and bring a legit number 1 corner, that's a big improvement in the offseason.
See, guys, that funeral wasn't so bad, right? It's not all bad.
As far as funerals go, yeah, I guess it could be worse.
Guys, thanks a lot.
You were talking to me on Tuesday morning, Cam. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, boy, here we go. Right. Guys, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Cam.
Good seeing you, Paul.